Good evening. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Board of Finance for Tuesday, January 17th, 2023 to order. First item on the agenda is public forum, limited to 3 minutes on any agenda items. Anybody wishing to address the Board of Finance in public forum? Yes. Come on. Right over here at the end, yes. Right in front of the mic, so we could capture your voice.
My name is John Sunday, 6 Potter Hill Drive. I'm one of the pickleball addicted members of the community. Not sure where on the agenda the pickleball discussion on the courts will come up, but just here to say that it's a very popular sport if you haven't watched the news. Today there's 5 million pickleball players in the U.S., 14 million tennis players, and in the next 7 years there will be 40 million pickleball players. I consider myself Park and Rec light. I took a class, got addicted to the pickleball, and realized I can't just play once a week. It's the good drug that keeps you fit and healthy, mind and body. And I started a roster of pickleball outside of Park and Rec. Another 2 days a week. I have 62 people on that roster. They don't all play at the same time, but it's a means of communication to set games up. I play with people that have some symptoms of Parkinson's disease. When they get on that pickleball court, it's therapeutic, and some of that disappears. I will end with that there's 22,000 people in Guilford. We have 4 courts. I've played in Canandaigua, New York, with a population of 10,000, and they have 10 brand new courts, and I've been there when all courts are in use, and another 50 to 100 people are waiting on the sidelines. Great way to meet new people and make friends. And we have an aging population, so when that comes to the budget, I hope you'll give it serious consideration to give us some new pickleball courts, because they're clearly not underutilized. Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
Anybody else wishing to address the Board of Finance in public forum?
Oh, I'm here to repeat what he said for everyone.
Okay, come on up. As you're doing that, I just wanted to note, come on up, we're fine. It's not on the agenda, but I don't know if there's something that's gonna come up on the agenda regarding pickleball, but based on your comments about, as we go through the budget season, obviously, as these things come up, Park and Rec, we're having our workshops tomorrow and Thursday, so I'm sure if that comes up during the workshops, we will certainly be in tune to that. So I'm not limiting you to items on the agenda. I just want to let you know that we didn't plan on having any discussion tonight on it, but we are going through workshops in the next couple days where we're probably going to hear about it. So please, name and address.
Julie Schlessel, 177 Stepstone Hill Road. I also have taken up pickleball, and for example, we were trying to get more courts. Yesterday it was standing room only. Even in the middle of the winter, people are playing. So there is demand. I think Rick said that he's putting through a proposal to get more courts, maybe 3 or 4, to reconfigure up there on at Bittner Park. So that's why we're here, and there's a few other people here from pickleball. So we just wanted to try to let you know that we're interested, and we're very excited about the prospects of more courts. So there's only 4 people play at a time, so you have 16 people, but there's most of the time there's more people than that. And so if you have any questions about it,
I'm sure we'll ask during the workshops. But
okay.
The fact that you've all come out for pickleball, and actually we've had more public forum at a regular meeting for this than we've had probably in 2 years. So you made quite a statement of it just showing up tonight. So thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the Board of Finance in public forum? Okay, thank you for coming out. Thank you for your statements. Item number 2, approve minutes of our regular meeting minutes of December 19th, 2022. Do we hear a motion?
So moved?
Second.
Any comments, corrections?
Nice. Typo corrections.
Veronica, go ahead.
Page 1, the end, paragraph that begins with Mr. Ailes. At the end, there's a capital I in how it is valued. Page 4, under expenditures. Just a typo on Ms. Malvasi, spelling error. Page 5, the paragraph that's under medical, it starts with Mr. Hoey, the very last sentence. He's gotten very positive feedback in his office. The word, it's just the word off there. And I think that was it.
If I could just go back, excuse me, back to page 1. That same paragraph that you had mentioned, in the second line, Mr. Ailes said he got his new assessment today. Just want to be clear. It was my assessment. And that's all I had, actually. Anybody else?
You know, my recollection is cloudy, but it's page 7, section 9. I was asking about some money, some ARPA money that may be granted to the Guilford Foundation. I thought at the time it was planned on being granted as opposed to was granted. So just curious about the wording on that.
It was great.
Was it already granted?
Yeah.
At that time?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
It was already granted.
It are, and you guys blessed it. It's my recollection. Yeah.
Okay, it's fine then.
Anything else? Okay. All in favor as corrected? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention?
I'll abstain, I wasn't here.
Thank you. Okay, item number 3, correspondence. Number 1, standing building committee minutes from January 3rd of this year. Anybody have anything for standing building? I know the link was sent to the chairman, but I don't know if he was able to make it tonight. In fact, I think he has conflicts on Tuesday night, which is why he usually doesn't make the first couple meetings of the month, of the year. So, but is there anything else, anything there we need to or want to take back to him or the building committee? This particular month, I did not see anything, so. Hearing none?
That's the only thing I would note is that it looks like there's an opening on the standing.
That's a good point,
committee.
to publicize that. There is an opening. They filled it, they were completely filled, and then someone needed to resign, so. So there is an opening on the standing building committee. Thanks, Jeff. Anybody else? Otherwise, we'll move on to pension committee minutes from December 21st, 22. The only thing I would note was under 5.1, which is as the trend continues that the town employees are going down in the defined benefit, going up on defined contribution for town and for the Board of Education, which is always good to see. We know it's happening, but it's good to see that. Other than that, I didn't have anything else to bring up. Anyone else?
It was also nice to see a good month.
Yes, the pension report. Absolutely.
Hadn't seen one in a little bit.
Absolutely.
Snapshot in time.
Yep. Let's keep it going.
Actually, there is pretty good news. You guys will hear over the next couple of days on pension contributions for the next fiscal year.
Great. We look forward to it. Anything else on pension? Otherwise, OPEB minutes?
No.
And I guess we can echo what Jonathan said about the investment report. Okay. If nothing else on the correspondence, item number 4, review and accept the report of expenditures for the Board of Education for December 2022. Linda Trudeau and Arnold Skretta. Good evening.
Good evening.
So, good evening to everybody on the Board of Finance. And as Chairman Ailes already said, I'm Arnold Skretta from the Board of Education. Expenditures for the
Have you
month.
not been before us before?
A year ago.
Okay, I was gonna say, you've been before us before. We know who you are.
Expenditures for the month of December 2022 for the Board of Ed in the Guilford Public Schools was $5,222,974.81. Expenditures and encumbrances through the end of December were 46% of the budget, as compared to 47.67% of the budget in the 21-22 fiscal year. Total revenue for the month of December 2022 was $1,783 from Medicaid. And the total amount of the payments listed on the warrant is $2,390,627.21. A large part of why the overall expenditures are a little bit lower as opposed to in December 2022 as opposed to the 21-22 fiscal year was because salary, there was only 2 payrolls as opposed to 3. Also, unemployment claims were down, and more favorable workers' comp rates. Tuition payments approximate the prior year. I think that's about it for now. If there's questions, I could do a few highlights on the warrant if you want to get into that.
Everyone received the tuition report as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Linda, for that.
Thanks.
Questions? Board of Education budget expenditures. I looked hard at the summary and looked for questions and percentages, and it was hard to do it this month. Things are kind of trending the way we knew, over the last couple months. So,
I'll ask one.
please.
It's lower than last year at this time, but legal is still over 50% of the budget. Is there anything pending or active that we need to be aware of, or that?
We have continuing negotiations. We have not settled with the custodial union, so that's going on. There has been some special education legal. I think that's, for the most part, in this report, that's it.
Okay.
There will be a charge next month that will be for something slightly different. But in this report, it's basically general labor, the ongoing negotiations with the custodial union that's still not settled, and special education legal.
So fairly standard.
Fairly standard.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I know we just heard, I'll mention this, we had our joint budget meeting, Board of Finance, Board of Education, about the food service, the drop. I don't know if you want to provide an update on that. I know the public doesn't necessarily know, but the free meal program ended December 1st, and the effect of that for the school, to the school system, or I should say, more for the students and for the school system itself, but both, I guess.
With the end of the funding for the free meals for all, we went back to paid meals as of December 1st. And the participation rates did decline significantly. I mean, the food service made a profit of $387 for the month of December. So, I mean, that they got by, but the participation definitely has declined. We're trying some new things to see, what we can do to try and raise that participation rate back up some. It could be like we see at the start of the year. We always say September is not great because parents are back to making meals and, oh, this is great, I'm going to pack you a healthy lunch. And come the end of the month, they say, okay, enough of this, go buy lunch. So we're not sure if we're in that phase again, where parents are back to making lunch and thinking, we're gonna make lunch every day, or if this is the trend that's gonna continue on.
Where are the levels compared to before the free lunch for all?
Let's see if I can figure this out. So in comparing it to last year is not an accurate comparison. So we looked back to the 18-19 school year, because that's the last somewhat normal year. Breakfast was stable, but lunches was down. This doesn't make any sense. So I'm trying to read somebody else's report, and it's not laid out the way I would read it. Lunches are down 32 meals a day, but over the entire month, that really adds up. So we're not sure.
It's not just the drop from people saying, oh, I had the opportunity for free lunch and now I have to pay for it.
Right.
It's below that.
We've heard from some parents who think, it's still such an easy thing and my kids like the meals, so they're going to buy, but we have seen a decline. So we're trying to see what we could do to raise it back up. But from this time last year, breakfast is almost a 400 meal count difference for the month, and for lunches, it's about 450 meals different. So that's a huge difference from where we were last year.
But I think it tracks similarly to the 2019
It does.
year.
It does.
And I'm recalling this from our operations meeting a week ago or more. The school lunch programs, they're offering kind of like a premium meal options for certainly at the high school. And then to some parents' chagrin, we haven't heard a lot of feedback there, but to other parents' delight, certainly the students' delight, they're offering ice cream at the elementary levels.
Yeah, that may change.
Students might be happy.
Some of the students are happy, some of the parents are not. We're finding that maybe that wasn't our best choice. It was a pilot program, so we are evaluating that one, and that may not continue. We may look at alternative snack items to be offered instead of ice cream. While the ice cream that was served fell within the healthy guidelines, maybe it wasn't the best choice.
Are we running a deficit in the line for the year?
No, right now we're not, because
It's just a small
yeah. So
margin, right?
This program made a $385 profit for December, so we haven't lost money yet, or at this time. But so because of the additional funding that we received for the first part of the year, the first 5 months, or really 3 months, it has carried us through. So.
But break even is kind of where you want to be.
Right. It's not meant to be a for-profit operation. No. It's meant to be self-sustaining.
Right.
So right now, December is about where we should be, for
And
that.
you wonder if it'll be take up to bring it back up to cash flow neutral.
Right.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
We look to fund certain other things out of this program, so we look for them to be able to fund their own equipment, and, you can't do that if you're only making a $385 profit a month. So luckily, we've already purchased a number of equipment, so hopefully the stuff that's still 20, 30 years old is going to keep working, and we won't have to replace anything else.
Linda, a couple of things that are catching my attention. Are we still buying COVID supplies?
It's really just the storage trailers that are used to house the equipment that was moved out of the classrooms because we needed to space out the classrooms. So we haven't been able to bring all that stuff back into the buildings yet. So we're trying to work on getting rid of those trailers.
Okay.
But
So
that's really
lingering costs.
that's really about all
Okay.
we're spending it on right now.
And then I wanted to ask you a little bit about the capital section here. And, it looks like we're pretty far over on equipment instructional line and site improvements.
Yeah. Equipment instructional will get reimbursed by the technology lease, so that will come back down within
Yes.
budget. my office has been running a little short-staffed, so it's one of those things that we haven't quite gotten to yet.
Yep.
So we're hoping to get that out soon.
Okay.
And then the site improvement was partially due to the unexpected asbestos that was found at Baldwin. So that's part of it, and then there's some other things that, just like everything else, the costs have gone up from original projections. And then we don't anticipate anything else coming out of the site improvement line at this point.
Okay. Nice.
Somewhat of a look ahead question. I was looking at supplies and materials. I noticed that in the budget that we were just, the superintendent's budget that was just shared with us, that textbooks and computer software were higher numbers, that there was a bigger percentage, and I'm seeing it's trending higher now too. Was the budget that was created for 23-24 a result or an effect of what we're seeing here on the textbooks and computer software running higher? Is that a cost issue or is it a quantity issue? Or both?
So for software, it is.
Yeah.
Because there have been a few programs added in the budget for the 23-24 year. One being an HR package that will help with onboarding of employees and help streamline that paperwork and make it more efficient to get everybody hired and all their paperwork in a smooth process. And then the other, there were a couple other pieces of software that were added during COVID that the teachers are still using and finding very beneficial. They were funded under ESSER, they're now being brought into the budget. So that's part of the increase in the budget for software. Textbooks is one that can vary, so it's depending on a replacement cycle. So a department at the high school last year may have had a bigger budget because they were replacing a certain textbook, and it was the quantity and the cost of that textbook. Well, this year it's a different book, and it's, the quantity could be different, the cost of the book can be different. So textbooks can vary. It's not necessarily an every year kind of thing. It all depends on which books we're replacing or if we're purchasing something new.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Warrants?
Do you want us to bring some things to point out to you, or do you want to just ask warrant questions? Want to bring out some warrant points?
Sure.
I know you had a few.
What I enjoyed, if that's an appropriate word, about the warrants was a lot of the purchases really show the breadth and depth of the Guilford Public Schools as to the constituencies that we're serving. So there's purchases for virtual headsets for a cinematography class at the Guilford High School. There's hockey and golf supplies. There are items for shop classes that include a bandsaw and a JAWS press tool. There were security improvements. There's also some furniture for Baldwin. There was a replacement of a playground tube at Lakes Elementary School. And just to remind everybody, that's also got the district-wide special ed program. And then there's furthermore payments for adult ed. And this is basically, it's state mandated, and those are for basically people that need to get their GED. So really the schools are really helping support, all walks of life within the town.
And there's always the proverbial pain in the glass. Seems like every month they show up for glass repairs and replacement.
Bring that up there with really good stuff.
Or the fan company.
Yeah.
But I won't say
That's
that
right.
on there.
Yes, we will go.
Anything else?
Something was jumping out on me a little bit on page 4. It was car wash services. So I was wondering, are we taking the Board of Education vehicles to the classic car wash?
Is this on warrants, John?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yes, it's the maintenance trucks
Okay.
So the maintenance trucks go get rid of the salt and dirt off the trucks to try and keep those trucks lasting for another 20 years?
I wonder if we could persuade Public Works to wash them.
That's
They-
really, that's
We can
really.
as long as DEP allows us to have it go into the groundwater. That's one of our challenges.
Have you guys been bringing them to the classic car wash
No,
too?
we have a Rube Goldberg set up in the garage where we're capturing the runoff. It is a very challenging effort to try to desalt the equipment on a regular basis.
And given the cost of this, it's more efficient for
And-
us to go to the car wash than to
The
try and
co-
tie up
the-
Public
the-
Works with
the-
doing
the
something
cost-
Yeah, I
like
mean,
that.
there's
cost
an
of-
irony in that
Yeah,
because,
the cost to empty the tanks
yeah,
and have them treated appropriately and the water disposed of appropriately, it is far cheaper to leave that to the private sector
Yes.
in some
now,
cases.
I remember trying to bring this up when we were talking about that car wash system, and I said, is it cheaper to bring it to the truck wash? I was thinking I wanted Branford, because it's the only one I know, but.
We occasionally use that when warranted, so.
All right. Thank you, Linda.
Anything further? I just about panicked because I froze.
Your screen?
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, all my notes, they're gone, but let's see if it comes back. Hey, there it is. This way I have the motion in front of me, usually helps. Okay, if nothing else. I'll entertain a motion to accept the report of expenditures for the Board of Education for December 2022 in the amount of $5,222,974.81.
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstentions, recusals?
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Good night, thanks.
Item 5, review and approve report of expenditures for town government for December 2022. Good evening, Mary Jane.
Right?
Sure.
Okay. I'll start with revenues. 50% through the year. At this point, we are 65.7% collected, as opposed to 64% collected last year. Don't really have too much to know other than items I've mentioned in the past. Did want to just remind you that some of the items the budgets have been adjusted to account for the increase in revenue. So the town clerk, for instance, is at 44% collected today, as opposed to almost 70 a year ago. But we were bringing in all of that extra revenue, so it's really just a matter of, the numerator and the denominator. Yeah. So we've adjusted that budget up, which is what's bringing the collection rate down. Otherwise, all of our revenue is right on track where we should be at this point.
Got questions, but they're all about the good news, though. The
Mhm.
finance line looks fantastic, so we're pulling in a better interest rate now.
Yeah, we are, and I'm also, because we just received our collection money this month, putting some money into another investment tool as well, so to try to even bring this amount up even further. So
That's nice to see those piles of money making some money. And then,
my budget will look a lot better
yeah.
when you're talking about it in the next couple of days.
And then golf as well, I'm kind of curious now, will the spring golf give us all the revenue we expect for the golf course? They look like they're ahead as well.
Yeah, well, of course, they've been trending high. People have been utilizing them even through COVID, and we've had really good weather We had good weather through the fall, which allowed us to, and I believe they stayed open a couple extra weeks.
Okay.
So, between the weather and people getting out there, we're doing very well. Their expenditures are up as well, obviously, because, we need the staffing and the maintenance to take care of all of its use,
Okay.
but,
So we see the other side.
yeah, you'll see.
In the next page.
Yeah, but yeah, they're doing very well.
Okay, and then the fire department, I'm used to always them being that month behind and usually about 8% below.
Well, the fire department, as I've noted in other times, uses a new system, or they contract with a different system, and it allows them to stay more on top of things.
Okay.
Yeah,
Faster
there's
billing?
not as much of a lag in the billing, so we tend to be closer. Sometimes there's a lag, but it's less than we would normally see.
Six good revenue days this month.
Correct.
Yeah.
I see the selectmen are making money for it.
Hand over fist.
Look at that.
So, anytime we sell surplus material, the revenue, the selectmen get the benefit of the revenue, so.
Hey, we found a program.
Right?
That's right.
That's cool, that's our yard
We
sale.
found a program, that's right.
Yep, we have a new
Stuff
program
that we used, stuff that we used to just junk, now we're going out to bid. It's an online auction service, and we also don't have to, there are some parameters in our purchasing and policies that say that if we have a piece of equipment we need to get rid of, we have to put it out to bid, right? We used to have to publish that in a local newspaper, et cetera. The service that we offer now through an online brokerage arrangement, the fees are nominal, and the purchasers are the ones that are paying the
Yeah,
fees.
fees are actually paid by
By the
the purchaser. And the company does almost all the work, too. I mean, we give them, give them a picture and description, and they just go with it. And, yeah, it works really well.
Let me know if there's a fire truck for sale.
Yeah.
Always wanted one since I was a boy.
Actually did give away a fire truck.
Did you?
Yeah, to a youth, an organization, a charity
All right,
organization.
next time.
Yeah. Bob, you had a question?
No, I was after a fire truck and it's gone.
Boy, you might.
To
Fire
buy,
department might get some
Yeah.
revenue here.
Yeah.
We're gonna start selling our trucks just to the Board of Finance, and we'll be all set.
We can park them anywhere.
At some point, every boy's life, they wanted to be a fire.
I mean, I was gonna say, Jack, I'll bid on that.
See?
Yep.
All right.
Best mom ever.
Well, now I know where to go. We don't even have to,
Don't even have.
we don't need that online system. We're just coming straight here.
Bid right here.
We'll just park it right here, and you guys can bid through the window.
Live
If you
auction.
like.
gotta get your friends to chip in on
There you
gas.
go, there you go.
All right,
Okay, we digress, yeah.
Hate to leave the revenue conversation.
That's great, though, especially since it satisfies the bidding requirements, too. I mean,
It does, yeah.
Expenditures.
Okay.
Oh, back to the.
Okay, back to
Oh,
work.
darn.
Back to work. So we are at 52.7% expended right now, as opposed to 54% expended a year ago. I think a couple of meetings ago, I went through an extensive list of all of the differences. Those are still in effect, but on the whole, everyone is right where we would expect them to be, and I don't really have anything specific to report tonight unless you have a question.
I have an observation.
Mhm.
It's very nice to see that human services is 100%.
We work hard
There's-
at getting it done.
There's always some organization or nonprofit or, that they don't exist or something. So it's good to know that all of the
I like to see that too,
targeted
yes.
organizations that we wanted to give to, for all the right reasons, actually took all our money.
I know, so come June, we don't have to fight people to give them money. That's like the.
It's been a while since I think I've seen 100% there.
It's the one thing I don't understand, why it's so hard to give that money away some days. But,
Yeah, other than that, everything seems to be trending pretty much on. I'll just make a comment on it. Also, economic development is trending higher on expenditures, but I will just say that we've got we got the report that was sent to us, because Amy had brought that up. And it was, reading this and looking at it, I'm not saying that this is the reason for but it's nice to see all that's going on, and you could see why there might be a correlation there, so.
Well, there's two reasons.
Reimbursement?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's still, and that's
We
still
have
coming back.
two reasons for that. First of all, we haven't received Madison's reimbursement
Okay, we
for the
haven't,
quarter.
okay.
Well, we bill them every quarter, so,
Okay.
at the end of December, the expenditure's out, but we don't get
Oh,
paid until.
it's quarterly.
Yeah,
Okay.
quarterly. And also,
Half.
last year Madison overpaid in 2022, so they're taking that credit in 2023. So we'll actually probably be over in that budget, which we'll have to come back to you at the end of the year. But the money, fell to fund balance, so it's just a matter of pulling it back out. So that's why it's higher. And she's really busy, based on her report from
Yes.
today, yes.
I'll just comment, I like the emphasis on trying to fill the large space at Shoreline Plaza. It's,
She's working hard.
yeah, I mean, a lot of people are concerned about it, so it's, I think it's
Yeah.
important to note that it is a priority.
But there's a bit of good news for the Shoreline Plaza ownership group. In front of Planning and Zoning, I think Wednesday night, is the application for freestanding Chase
Chase
Bank
Bank,
facility
yeah.
there, which will go somewhat to help them with their revenues.
Now, we still see our tax revenue from that location, right?
Yes, we
Oh,
do.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be obviously healthier if we had the right kind of operation there, but.
Yeah, we could get into the woods on how you develop value of property when you have rental income component on commercial, but let's save that discussion for another time. But over a period of time, if they aren't able to rent that facility, the value of that property will be diminished over time because they can't rent it. That's the income component of the valuation on property taxes. So.
But then do the individual businesses, don't they pay property tax on equipment and?
Just equipment,
Personal
yeah, but
property.
this is,
Property.
a place like Walmart, you can't tax inventory.
Not inventory.
You can tax, shelving and computers and,
If you put a car dealership in
that's
there,
all, that's
and
pretty
office
much.
equipment,
And-
it's.
And then there's a depreciation schedule that, I know
Yeah.
you know better than I do, that makes that de minimis, right?
But we can't sell them, it's okay. We'll take it up with the legislature.
Anything else on expenses? Capital fund reports? Thank you for our quarterly capital
I
fund
just wanted to
review.
know, I knew you guys would love the fact that our,
It's much shorter.
the school capital report almost fits on one page.
Yeah. That's your
I thought you guys
2023
would like
goal?
that. I thought you guys would like that,
No,
so.
that
just,
is good.
Since we've been closing out the authorizations, and we will continue to do so as appropriate.
Well, again, it's always good to see what else is, what bonds are still out there, and authorizations and what's left, so.
And a lot of people use these, I know Cliff, uses these as well, so.
Where's the money coming from? That's,
How much is left is Cliff's question.
anything on the warrants, special fund, or either the 117 warrants? There were, actually, I just noticed the fourth one down on the special fund. That was the land acquisition fund. Is this the land purchase that we talked about last month?
No.
Or is this, the parcel, that's the Rusconi parcel easement?
Yes, that's the one across from Melissa Jones, that 26-acre parcel.
Oh,
The town meeting approved us
Okay.
purchasing an easement on that property. The Guilford Land Trust is actually the owner of record for that property because they were entitled to apply for federal grant money, and they received that grant money, which significantly reduced the cost of the easement to us, as well as the purchase price for the land trust for that piece of property. So it was Sarah Williams and Gary McKellen did an absolutely spectacular job of figuring out the system and saying, how do we best get this piece of property and preserve it in perpetuity? And the best avenue was to take advantage of the federal funds that were only available to land trusts, not to municipalities. So I think that's the settlement. Our piece is 187, right? Is that what the number is?
Yeah,
Yes. Yep.
Right. And I'm not sure, but Mary Jane can confirm this, that may also have included Mr. Lacey's legal fees, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Anything else on warrants? Okay, I have to admit, medical, I'm looking at for the first time because I just downloaded it.
I did the same thing because my screen wasn't updated.
Yeah, so,
We had quite the
it,
jump.
yeah, what would you like to, yeah, we did, we had a, thank
Shoe
you.
dropped, right? The shoe
Yeah,
was the
December was a
longest.
big
Finally dropped.
claim month.
Yeah, so as expected,
Yeah.
as the months go by and our employees are meeting their deductibles, we expect to see the claims rise, and this is a perfect year to see how that is being managed, with $1.2 million in claims in December compared to $977,000 last month, and you can see how.
But the same thing happened last month. Last year. There was a big jump in
There was a
December.
big jump, yeah. This year, we're seeing a more steady increase as opposed to ups and downs, and so it's tracking. If we were to tell you how this would track, this is what we would show if we were to estimate it this way. It's really tracking exactly like we expect, and so we would expect to see that moving forward as well. On the catastrophic claims, we are up to 7 members who have reached the 75,000 mark. Claims are up to 945,000, covered by 90,000 of the ISL, and we are currently at 3.8%. On the revenue side, doing well, very steady. We are showing a projected surplus of $767,000, but as the claims increase, that number will decrease from month to month.
Do you recall what that number was last month? I could look at it. No, I mean, we could all look at it. I'm just
I have to
curious.
start bringing my whole office with me.
Well, just going to the point that, as soon as you have a big claim
No, I'm
on,
just
that
teasing.
surplus is
Yeah,
gonna come down.
we can look back on board pack. Oh, look at Linda's got it.
It's my recollection that.
It was 962,000. Thank you, Linda.
Yep.
Yeah, I would just have to go back on board pack.
I did that, but you beat me to it with the hard copy.
Transfer school up.
Added the medical surplus?
No.
Oh, none last year?
Like I said.
Yep.
She says that all the time.
Okay. Anything else on medical or any other item under item 5?
Just because I'm kind of new at this, with the admin column, it obviously, it doesn't track going up and down with the claims. I mean, it's like, what makes that number change? Is it just the quantity of claims?
Some of our fees are monthly, some of them are quarterly.
Okay.
So there's big jumps, on a quarterly level, and some of them are based on the amount of claims, so that can adjust the amount as well. But typically, we see the big difference because of the quarterly billings.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just in case you guys
So watch, if you're bored tonight, and you want to watch the Board of Selectmen meeting later on or later this week, there was a letter that the board received 2 weeks ago from a retiree who is looking for their share of the surplus in the medical account, because the individual had contributed 16% of the premium share for their health care coverage, and feels that they are entitled to, and maybe others are entitled to, a reimbursement because of the size of the surplus in the account. the Board of Selectmen was not very receptive to that today, because there was discussion about, in 2013, this self-insurance fund was underwater by $750,000, and the town and taxpayers footed the bill for the additional costs. The employees share in none of the risk. The suggestion that they could share in the upside without having any ownership of risk is something that I think unanimously the Board of Selectmen this morning thought was not something they were willing to consider. Mm-hmm. And it was, the other consideration was a criticism of the fact that this board, as well as Board of Education and Board of Selectmen, had allocated $2.5 million for the OPEB benefits. Many of those same benefits are accrued to the individual who is asking the question for their reimbursement today. So you may hear a little noise about it, but that's what it was about.
Okay. Thank you for the heads up. Okay. If nothing further, then I will entertain a motion to approve the report of expenditures of the town government for December 2022 in the amount of $2,887,798.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, abstentions, recusals? Great. Thank you. And I know that Mary Jane is not going anywhere. Because item number 6, discuss and take possible action on fiscal year 23 salary budget transfer. I guess I'll just quickly for the public, just summarize the memo that was dated January 3rd, or is dated January 3rd for fiscal year 23 salary budget transfer from our finance director to the Board of Selectmen. Board of Finance states 1 open contract was completed this year. Funds for this were budgeted in reserve for personnel. I'm requesting approval to transfer $5,314 from 00146-51400 reserve for personnel into human resources full-time salaries 00104-51000. This amount represents an increase back to fiscal year 22. Thank you for your consideration. Does anybody have any questions on this? It seems pretty straightforward for the amount.
I'll move we approve the request.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Great. Item number 7, set interest rate for Guilford Supplementary Tax Relief Program. So there is a memo that actually addresses item 7 and item number 8. Every January this comes before us. I could go through it, or Mary Jane, do you want to? I could either read it or you could summarize it.
I'll summarize it. So the Board of Finance is responsible for setting the annual interest rate for those deferring their taxes through the Guilford Supplementary Tax Relief Plan. We base that on the 20-year spot yield for AAA-rated general obligation municipal bonds, as determined and provided to me by our financial advisors. That rate for this particular year is 2.7%.
Great. Anybody have any questions regarding that?
I move we approve the request.
Second.
Okay. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Excellent. Item number 8, set cap for aggregate benefit under Section E2 of the Elderly Tax Relief Program. Same memo.
Same memo. So similarly, for the Elderly Tax Relief Program, the Board of Finance is asked to set the cap. According to the ordinance itself, it shall not be less than 0.5% of the current year budget, which equates to about $550,000. I do have a little table here of how the program has gone since 2013. At the 2021 grand list year, we had 639 applicants, down from 721 the year before, for a total benefit of $799,000. We had a cap of $1 million. We like to keep that cap a little higher than the amount that we expect in case we do have a little flurry of more activity. If we were to have more applications than the cap, then everybody would be prorated. So I am recommending that you keep the cap where you have it at the moment, which is at $1 million.
Yeah, I see no reason to bring that down any further, or to even raise, I mean, it seems like the trend is
Right.
slowly going down,
It
but.
kind of goes up and
but
down.
I think the one thing you look at as well, you know, do you bring that cap down a little bit more? And I don't think we're ready to do that,
With the
because you don't
revamp.
want to be in a position, as we, I think,
Yeah.
you know,
Bob's
we
got it.
were several years ago where there was that issue, so.
I can add
I think it's a
that-
safe number.
I'd just like to point out, this drop from 20 to 21 is the most significant in years. And a good portion of that is the number of people exceeded, because it was a great year in the market, people's investments took them above the line. Now, we haven't moved the goalposts since inception. And if you've lived in Guilford for 20 years and you're over 65 and as a couple your household income is $95,000, you qualify for the full tax freeze. But it would not surprise me that when people, you submit your tax return when you go to the assessor's office to go apply for this, I would expect to see that number run right back up to 700 again. So I wouldn't look to drop the cap.
Good point.
I have a couple comments I always make on this program each year. I absolutely love the program. It helps the needy elderly who are on fixed income get a tax break. But we are missing an asset test, which I kind of bring up every year. We do test for income. It makes sense. I think at one point it was the average income in Guilford. As you've said, we probably haven't adjusted it in a while. But I think it's a reasonable income cap. And I think an asset test, though, might be advisable. And I would ask people maybe use the honor system. If you own a $2 million house, remember that when you take this tax freeze, everybody else's taxes go up a little bit to cover it. And maybe that's working a little bit backwards if you're that blessed with such a large home or such a large pile of assets.
There been discussion over the years as to whether or not an asset means test was appropriate, but it is an income-based program for what people are drawing down. And yes, they're entitled to leave the balance of their assets to their heirs and family. This is what the fairest way to do this was determined years ago, that what you're taking in as income is what we should be basing it on. So, and the other consideration is there are a number of people who are on this program who were making significant amounts of money earlier in their careers, right? And are also, many of them are paying substantial amount in property taxes, or would have been paying substantial amount in property taxes as well. So they've been here, as Bob said, it's 20 years, 25 years, whatever the cap is, and that's 95,000. So
That's right. You climb to that cap. So everybody looks at the full freeze, and there are that many people in the program, and many more who are climbing on the ladder. But the reality is, if you've got a $2 million house, your income, you're not living on under $95,000. So, these are low to middle income people who are, and they're, mostly pillars of the community because they've been here so long. And it's if you do an asset test, that means they start selling things, which may or may not kick them out of the program, and it becomes a mess.
And then I think it's important to note that if it does throw them out of the program, they start over. When they come back in, they
Yeah.
don't pick up, they start over.
Yeah.
Yeah, this may be kind of interesting, but I actually had 2 residents come up to me and said they did bow out of it after some of the comments I made. So every once in a while, someone
Listens.
says,
Yeah.
you're right, I'm doing all right,
Yeah.
I don't need the program.
There you go.
Okay, anything further?
just one of the things about that program that has raised some questions over the years is it is a complete freeze. You don't have to pay them back, unlike the other program that you just approved, the state program, which is when the property turns over, the amount that was frozen is due from the heirs, et cetera. So if there were any consideration for changing the program, I would think that would be the area you would look at, as
Right.
opposed to.
I've always proposed that you grant, if we move the goalposts and raise the income limit, you leave everybody in there, grandfather everybody who's in it, and capture the capital difference going down the road.
Residents can take advantage of both programs, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Anything further on that? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion. Actually have it all out here. So motion to approve that. The aggregate benefit under Section E2 of the Guilford Elderly Tax Relief Program for fiscal year 22-23 be capped at $1 million per the recommendation of the town's finance director.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Excellent. Thank you. Item number 9. Remove from the table and take possible action to renew the town's commitment with Rob Nevin Slim Nation for town employees. This very well might be the easiest thing we do tonight. First of all, we need a motion to remove the item.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Oh, that's an aye, sorry.
Okay. Therefore, do you want to provide an update? I guess
Sure. I mean,
we
we
tabled it
talked-
simply so that the Board of Education could jump on board.
Correct. Since we met last month, the Board of Ed has approved the recommendation for the 20 employees of the Board of Education for their half. So we come here with a joint request to ask that you appropriate another $22,000, which would cover 20 town and 20 Board of Ed employees in the program, transferred from the medical fund.
Right. Anybody else have, anybody have any?
Can you repeat the dollar amount?
$22,000.
22,000?
And just refreshing memory, it's new people can apply, but people who were on the program for the first round can take advantage for a second round if
Well,
it's not.
first, we're looking for new employees,
Right.
for new people. If there are some available spots, we are considering allowing them to come in for a second round, and I think the amount would be a little less. But it's kind of a wait and see. So it would be no more than the $22,000, but a second round with him would be less money. But the goal would be for, 40 new employees to take advantage of the program.
Great. I think based on what we read last month and the testimonials that are still there, and I'm sure still apply, wouldn't have any issue with extending it and putting that money towards it. So, are we approving the amount or just renewing that?
You need to approve the amount and
Okay.
to give us permission to use,
Yep.
to take it out of the medical fund.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to spend $22,000 from the medical fund for the commitment to the, or renew the commitment to the Rob Nevin Slim Nation plan for the town's employees and Board of Education, for that matter.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Great. Item number 10, discuss and take possible action on elected officials' salary for the registrar of voters. First of all, I don't know who provided
I was going to say, I don't know if it's me or not.
was-
I don't know if it's me or not.
Gloria's
Gloria's here.
The registrars of voters provided the job description information that you asked
Yes.
for. And I believe Mitch, right, put together the salary info.
I wanted to thank-
So
yeah,
those
thank you
were
for
the
that.
two items that you requested of me and I
Yeah.
requested of them.
Great, thank you. It never ceases to amaze me when I look at the description of the registrar of voters, what they're doing, and how cyclical it is. That it makes it, to me, it makes it difficult to kind of sit there and say, okay, here's your salary for a 40-hour work week for 52 weeks. It cycles, and I will only say that I struggled a little bit looking at this in terms of just trying to figure out what is, a correct amount and should it go up. I mean, we wouldn't go down. I personally am looking at this, and I'll make a couple of points of what I saw, and I initially believed that there should be an increase, but of course, none of us really talked about this because we just got the information, so now's the time to do that. I looked at all of them, and when you look at the, 11 municipalities that were called out that are like Guilford, which is really based on population, I started looking at, there's a couple that, Norwich and Groton have higher populations, but I look at the numbers and the salary, and I'm thinking maybe they too should look at the registrar of voter salaries. They seem pretty low. What I did do is I looked at 3 like communities in population and looked to see where their proportion or ratio was. And I think it's hard to look at population as a direct correlation to a salary, right? Because you're still doing a lot of work for a lot of these. Are you doing more work for 39,000 versus 20,000 or 22,000? I'm sure there is, but I don't know if that's a really direct correlation. Gloria, I do want to thank you for coming here in case we have any questions. So we might have questions as we do this deliberation. I'm simply just putting out my thoughts, and then I'll let the board chime in. I looked at Farmington, Ridgefield, and South Windsor, and I looked at those populations, and they're all in the 25,000, and all of their salaries seem to be, as I looked at it, about a proportion of, when I looked, it was like a ratio of 1.25. I don't know if that's the way to look at it, but I am now looking at it on a population basis. And I looked at Guilford and thought, Guilford seems, for the population, for the salary, seems lower than a Farmington, a Ridgefield, and a South Windsor. And I think some of the other ones were kind of anomalies, that the salaries were much lower or not keeping up. Even New Milford with the population and looking at the salary, it seemed like they need to take a look as well. So as I was looking at just those 3, I was thinking that they're, again, you look at cost of living, you look at the amount of work they're doing, the amount of cyclical, and looking at the next 2 to 3 to 4 years, which was the report that you gave us in the summary of what's coming up, there's a lot of unknowns as well, in terms of machines being outdated, and you're gonna have to go through training on that, and so there's going to be a lot to that.
I was just,
Early voting, thank you. I did highlight that. I did highlight that. There's a lot of unknowns.
Is really the key.
Yeah, and
to this.
And so I looked at, and again, maybe those 3 communities are going to be looking, and they may do something, but I'm just looking at what it is right now. And I do think that there should be an increase. Exactly what that increase is, I think it should be in the 25,000 to 26,000 range, which is an increase. And again, that's an increase that would put us 4 years out, because just remind me, I did make a note on this. There's no increases over 4 years. This is a set amount over 4 years, right? Is it?
It's however.
You did a percentage each year.
It was a percentage each year that we did? Okay.
It was a percentage.
Okay, so right. So I think when you look at that kind of an increase, when I'm looking at the proportions, it seems to be somewhere in the 15% over 4 years. Something like that, but again, that's 4% a year. And that would actually come out to look like, the Farmington, the Ridgefield, the South Windsor, which I think have incredibly similar populations and match that better. So that is my summary of it, and so I'll let the board take that.
Do we know how many registered voters are in Guilford?
15, well, I'm.
16,047. Okay,
Oh,
so far.
So we passed 16?
Yeah, we were hovering around that.
Yeah, I thought it was always like just high 15, but we passed it, okay.
Okay, so Farmington is 20,557. I was just looking and
Good.
trying to figure out
Do
what
so.
the ratio was for.
This is not the only data we should look at. This is the data provided to us. So if you could find more.
I just found on the town of Farmington, it's 20,557 active.
So proportionally,
registered
it's about
voters.
the
So it's
same.
proportionally
Yeah.
probably about the same.
But looking at the other volunteers in the room, I can tell you, there's also degrees of difficulty, the number of polling places you have, the number of volunteers that you have to organize. The mailing, the early voting is a envelope opening. It's, due to the logistics of the town, literally the topography and everything that you have to deal with, is it easier to do this in a metro center or not. I'm with you. I think, a significant rise is warranted, not least because, and I happen to know this because I've been inside track on this, Secretary of State thinks Guilford is the greatest registrars around, right? Blow your horn.
We haven't made the headlines, which is always good.
Right.
When they're good, right, Gloria?
But I do know that there's, but they
I
pulled,
did
but-
get a letter from the past Secretary of State
Right.
morning
And-
telling us something what you did, so.
and we tend to get audited quite often. The name comes out of the hat, and you pass with flying colors every year.
It's just a hand count
Right.
to check if the machine is right.
Yeah.
And how many years in a row did we get the participation award,
Pardon?
the Secretary of State's,
We've won the cup twice in the last, 6, 7 years for the highest percentage of voters in statewide elections.
So I'm suggesting that the degree of difficulty in Guilford is, I think you're good about, you get volunteers that other people don't get, which is probably, I don't know if that's a burden on you or not because of the training, but I think it's more difficult here. But I beg your pardon, they are paid. They are paid.
Poll workers have to be paid.
That's right, they are paid, but
Cannot be
you got to
volunteers.
organize them in the first place, don't you?
And they have to be trained,
You're rounding up.
and they are trained every cycle for whatever
Right.
is new.
Right. So,
And regardless of how many registered voters you have to be prepared. You could
For
get 1,000
same
voters,
day,
or you
yeah.
could get
That's right,
12,000
For
voters.
100% of the
Right.
registered voters, you have to be prepared for it.
Right.
Whether they come out or not is another
Correct.
matter.
Right.
ordering the
So-
right number of ballots and being sure that the ballots are correct when they
Right,
when
and
they
having
go.
the staffing to accommodate
So-
that, so,
So remind me how this goes then. We're looking at a 4-year ladder.
yes.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get from here to where in 4 years?
Well,
so what are we currently?
well, and so we're currently at 23.
We're trying to
Right.
get
And
to
I think a
29.
median would be 25, but then you're looking, out past that. So I started thinking, well, even if you do 4%, let's just say you do a 4% increase a year, you end up at, I forgot what that number was. Someone could do it real quick, including myself.
I have some
But-
comments,
but-
Mike, if you
but-
want.
but it would
wanna do
be,
that
but it would be, I think,
calculation.
it'd be in the 26 something. And I was thinking median, to get it where it is now and be comparable to where Farmington and Richfield and South Windsor is, I think it's closer to 26. So, but
I got a couple of comments. I didn't
Go
do
ahead,
as
John.
sophisticated of analysis as you, but I noticed in the 11-town sampling that we got that our salary was one of the lowest.
It is.
And it was actually
Yeah.
in the 3 lowest out of 11. And then I did have the privilege of being an election observer, and I realized there's a lot more involved than I thought, and our elections were run very orderly, and I was pretty impressed. So our registrars do a great job every year, I think. So obviously, it's time for an increase, and
There and you end up at 26.
I would definitely support an increase to maybe 25, 26,000 from the 23 that we're at.
the only thing I would add, the only thing I would say is that when you look at that, that, again, that's 4 years out, so even if you're, whatever that number is, there's also, if we're already at 23 and we're thinking that it should be higher now, 4 years out, do we have a bump and then go up a certain amount? You know what I mean?
Are we committed to a 4-year thing? Why
Yeah.
can't we look at this annually?
I think we're,
According
I
to
think
the
it's-
town charter,
It's a
the
4-year.
registrar,
It's a-
elected official can only
It's like the
request a
selectmen.
raise
It's like a
before they
selectment
are
thing, we have to look at it.
We have to do it
Oh, right.
before
It's the
an
timing of
election.
your
Because you're
election.
elected, okay.
Yeah. And we've done that
So
before,
we
we've done
wanna
a
get to-
percentage
But
basis.
where do we want to get to, 29?
Right, where do we want to be? in
Like,
4
what
years?
is where are we trying to
I
go?
think Mike was proposing 26, he said 25 is a median.
To move to
I could
26
support
from
either one of
23
those.
right now?
If we do 4%, we're at 26.6 a year.
26.7 in 4 years' time. If we went 4, 4,
Okay.
4,
4% every
Yeah,
year.
I mean, that's kind of low still, but.
Yeah, the way of doing this is do a bump immediately and then do a lesser percentage and bring it up to speed and then do a 3% every year, which again, So 25,
I mean,
so
you're
the
talking about
proportion,
like
the proportion of
$3,000
those.
difference, so why wouldn't we just try to get to 29?
We could do that, that's what I'm.
Yeah,
that's what I'm-
okay. I think it would just make.
I think
if
there
we're
needs,
gonna try-
I think there needs to be an initial bump
Yes.
Yeah.
and get to the number and then go from that point.
Yeah,
And then
I agree.
So
Does
what
it
that-
work if we do 5-3-3? Is anybody who's sophisticated enough to do that like that?
Well, if we bring, the number that I came up with just based on those 3 towns that I talked about was 25.5. That was for year 1, so it'd be 25.5. Then you can add a percentage to that over 3 more years.
The 3 remaining years.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. We could all crunch in numbers and,
No, there's enough of you guys doing
I know, right?
Yeah, I know.
I'm not even-
And
Some of us
I'm
can
just
cross-
I
trying
saw
to-
Bob pull out his phone, I'm like, okay, I don't have to do it.
We're gonna start with an even 25.
You guys don't have to make a decision now, you
No.
have a election to do this, right?
Well,
It goes into effect for July 1.
We're expedient.
the,
If we do it now, we don't have to do it later.
Following year, it's a following year.
yeah, listen, I don't have any problem working this out right now and getting it done, because I heard that we need to get a decision quicker.
I thought it was for this year,
Soon.
that's why we're
Yeah.
doing it now. It goes into effect July 1 of this year.
July.
Yeah, and it needs to get into this year's budget, so it was the quick,
It is for the year after.
Take a look at the thing. When you did the Board of Selectmen salaries, you did it in the year prior to the election to take effect the following year, July 1. It may be different for registrar of voters, but that's the methodology that was done for years. I don't know if it's changed.
I know the reason this was brought to my attention to bring to you
mm-hmm,
is because we are working on our 2024 budget, and
which goes into effect
July 1.
of 20.
You know, forgive me if I'm wrong, but that I was asked to bring this forward so that this number could be in the budget
Right.
that we're putting together now. If that's incorrect, then
The rationale for setting it the way I just described was that you were never setting it for an incumbent. You were setting it for the
That's
next
right.
group that came into the job. And again, I sat in that chair and I did this several times. I'm pretty sure that that was the rationale, that we did it in the election, prior to the election, so we were not setting it for an incumbent. And I believe that's the same for registrar of voters. I'm not 100% certain that it's the same for registrar of voters.
So we are late in requesting this, so we should have done this before the election in November.
I believe that is true.
well, I was gonna ask,
I mean, I don't know when it would take effect, but
I was gonna ask a simple question, which is, when was the last time there was discussion about the registrar of voters? Was it 2019
Yeah.
18.
or 2018?
18.
I think it was the last.
Yeah,
Sure
it was
you know.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It had to have
2
been,
years before that.
the last time we did it, yeah, because Veronica and I were on the board, and that's the
Mhm.
last time we did it, so it had to be 2019.
It should have been before this past election.
Okay.
All I know is I was asked to bring this forward for the July 1 budget. Again,
And looking at the numbers are still the numbers, right? We're still looking at what the numbers are now, and they haven't been looked at in 4 years.
right, because I believe
So-
the 4 years that you approved, this 22-23 budget was the last of those 4 years, I
Mhm.
believe.
Mhm.
I'm going to motion that we increase the salary in the first year by 7% and the following 3 years by 3%.
Say that again,
works out to
Donna?
about
7%.
27,000.
7333.
Or we can propose another one. Yep. Everybody's calculating.
7% brings you to 23,840.
Mhm.
So, I think, let's see.
This is where our finance knowledge, hits the road here. The rubber hits the road right here.
Are we trying to get to a competitive number within those towns? Or do we not care about that?
Well, we're currently.
That's part of it.
We're currently 12% away from 25,
Right.
which is a big bump.
So I think we probably have to figure out
I
where.
like, I mean, I'd prefer just having, you know, just jumping the number, and you're saying percentage, but just have it be a smooth number, just
Like
25
an
or
increase of
25, just make it
$2,500 now.
25,000
do
and
a
then,
percentage?
and
Is
then
that what you're
percentages,
thinking?
yeah.
All right.
That's what I'm thinking.
So 25, and then adding 3% a year gets us to 27.3. If you start at 25 and you go 4% every year, it gets you to 28.1. So it's, to be honest, over the 4 years, it's a difference of $800.
Yeah.
Based on what I'm looking,
So I think a
I
25%
that's-
increase gets you to 29,000 almost immediately.
I think looking at the median salary is.
It might be fine,
it's
but I just
skewed.
think it's a bigger number
It's
than-
skewed. I would want to look at like communities and their proportion. And I think the 25 plus 4, 4, and 4.
Yeah, I think
To bring it- I think
Bob
that's-
is suggesting is reasonable.
Yeah, yeah, right? The 25, 4%, 26, another 4, 27, 40, and then 28, 121.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's gonna put you well over 30.
So I'll move that we increase the salary.
no, you're,
No,
wait,
you'll be
hold
at
on, Jonathan,
28.
you're at 28, 121 in year 4.
All right, I gotta fix this calculator, damn it.
Not 25%.
Oh, I thought you said 25%.
25,000,
Yeah,
and then go 4.
25,000.
Oh, okay.
Instead of 23,075,
I follow you.
25,000.
All right,
Instead of doing a percentage increase, we're
Yeah.
just doing.
Yeah,
that
I
sounds
think
good.
that's
we're
reasonable.
doing an immediate jump, whether you call it 25,000 or you make it a percentage.
And
You
if you
just-
say year
you-
1, 2, 3, and 4, we can make sure it's the appropriate year.
We hope so.
Well, so is
We
this
hope so.
technically-
This isn't our day job, you know?
Is this
Well, some people it is.
Is this technically year 2? No,
Well,
we're
that's what
still in year
she's
1.
gonna determine what
What
year
year
this
this
goes into effect. We're just
I
gonna
believe
vote
from
on
the
numbers.
information I was given from HR,
Okay,
was that the 23, 24 year would be year 1.
Okay.
okay. Okay, and,
I believe.
Okay, I believe that's,
Okay, and
I
if-
believe that to be the case.
all right, and if there's any, if for any reason there's any adjustment to that, then, you know, and it was supposed to be earlier, then it'd be year 1, 2, 3.
Matt doesn't agree. Again, I personally don't know. It's what I was asked to come for, so that.
And we were told to make a decision,
We
so.
were supposed to do this before November.
July.
Okay.
I will attempt to rephrase the motion. In the first year, we will increase the salary to 25,000.
That is correct.
In year 2, 3, and 4, we'll increase the salary by 4%.
That is correct.
Yeah, I'll
There's a second?
Is there
Yeah,
any
second.
further discussion? I do,
It-
Jeff?
I would just want to make sure we're not violating the charter. I don't want to belabor this, but I'd like to make sure we're doing it the right way.
Yeah.
All right. That being said, I think we got to, I think we got to,
Table it.
I think we got to table. it. So
I
I think,
personally
you
don't
know
know. I
what, just,
apologize.
no, listen, it's good
Why
discussion.
can't we recess and call our human resource director?
If there's absolutely no rush and it
Get 'em
just,
off the
if
stage,
if
wherever
it's an
it
issue
is.
that needs to get in the
Well,
budget,
then
we're
does it
talking
have
about
to
an
be
amount.
like-
It's,
We have to call them on the red phone,
Yeah.
because it's after hours.
The
It's after
bat
hours.
line.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, it's Tuesday. He teaches on Tuesdays.
But seeing as how it doesn't really go into
If-
effect till later,
could
we
we-
could table
could we-
it just as easily.
Do you want me to try to text him while you, is there anything else? You
Or
really
or
don't have
can
anything?
we do this on the 17th of February or whatever the date is, 16th? We still, yeah, I'd rather do that. Let's not rush into a
Well, we
decision.
got a good plan.
We have a good plan, but
We will put an appropriate amount in reserve for personnel
There you
based
go.
on what you
That's
just discussed,
Right.
which will give us the opportunity, give you the opportunity to confirm that you're doing it as Jeff
Subject to
just said, subject, right? So I think you can accomplish what you want to do by putting it and instructing our HR director to put that money in reserve for personnel,
The difference between
pending your
25 and
confirmation of your actions.
Okay, great.
So the difference between the current rate and the 25,000, that's what we'll do.
Right.
Gloria?
Go right ahead.
You can come right up here and read it if you have
It-
something that.
It's perfectly fine, we're in discussion, because we have a motion on the table. So
I have the minutes from.
trying to make sure the Roberts rules are followed too here.
I have the minutes from 2018,
What date specifically?
November 19,
Okay. Okay.
which that was, like, we kind of carried it over also. To approve 1.5% increase each year for the next 4 years.
And it would begin on July 1, 2019. 19, 20, 21,
So we'll
22,
begin
23
July-
is
So
year
that's
5.
18.
It would be
Yeah.
23.
So it would be
So
23,
this is
24. It would be the 23, 24
Oh,
year,
oh.
based on that motion.
I think you're rushing the judge.
Do we?
There's no hurry.
Yep, that's
No,
that's
no,
fine.
no,
I-
there's.
Wait a second.
Yeah, fine.
Those minutes are from the November 19th meeting,
November 19, 2018.
which was after an election.
Yes, but there was also a carry, we started 2 months before that to
And we tabled
request,
it a
and
couple
it
of
just,
times to get information.
Because you asked for data,
Yeah,
yes.
for data.
Mhm.
Yeah, but they came
Which-
with the proposal ahead of the election.
This is pretty clear on the dates, unfortunately, Matt. You know, it begins July 1, 2019 was year one. Year,
No,
No,
no, this was 2018, November 2018 to begin July. So that's why we would, I believe it would start July 2023, but we can,
Based on everything I'm hearing, or we're hearing, I should say, that would be the case. I'd want Mitch to provide, I'd want to get his blessing on it, and just make sure.
fine, I'm
I-
just
I
a messenger.
At least you know the direction we're going. All right, so, you know, we discussed it, and I think we're pretty solid on where we're gonna go with it. But it's, and it's not gonna hurt
Selectmen,
anybody.
and then eventually to the Board of Finance, unless you take action otherwise, is going to include the numbers you just mentioned.
Right.
Right,
Right?
right.
I'd also suggest that when the minutes are taken, when we finally come to that determination, we get the dates down there so we can refer.
That's right.
Right, and also, we need to get back on the right schedule,
yes.
right?
Agreed, yeah.
Yes.
Right, this kind of was forgotten, so to speak.
Okay.
It was missed.
Well, listen,
You know,
okay.
so that's why
That
I was
happens.
asked to bring it up last meeting. Remember, I brought it up last meeting just to say, hey,
Mhm.
we
Need to do this.
we need to do this. It wasn't done.
Right.
I'm, like I
Okay,
said, just a
so
messenger.
we need, we're in agreement, we need to retable this, but that means that technically who made the second?
I did.
All right, so you need to withdraw your second,
I withdraw.
and whoever made the motion.
I can withdraw that
Jonathan
motion. You want me to rephrase it?
Nope,
All right.
no, actually, I'll make a motion that we table,
Pending
table item 9 until we get further clarification from our Human Resources Director.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
We've spent millions faster than that.
Okay,
I know, right? Yeah. Isn't that funny?
all right,
All right, thank you.
thank you. Item number 11, committee reports. We have building permits, but the one note I made was if we're going to get committee reports, maybe we should add the EDC minutes to this in the future. This way it's automatically captured, and then you don't need to ask.
Great idea.
All right, Amy. Yeah, that was your idea to get them, so. All right, so we'll add that, so we'll have committee reports from the EDC. Anything further on committee reports? Item number 12, old business. I did have a note here. The first note was about the town advisor discussion about debt retirement. Bob, that you brought up the last meeting. Do you
Yeah.
want to follow up on that?
I will, and my apologies, I said at the last meeting I would come up with a series of questions. I went home and wrote them down and never sent them. And something about Tracy's memo today about iPads made me think I never sent the questions. So I sent them today to Mary Jane, who has put them on to our advisors. If they're so willing, we'd like to find space for them on the agenda, perhaps at the next, in February.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that's possible. We usually, that's our budget presentations.
Yeah.
But I do think that usually it's a pretty, oh, wait a minute, I'm thinking of one other thing. Mary Jane, next month, do we get the audit?
We are
Am I-
currently completing the audit
Okay.
still. I would not have it in, I had not planned to have it in February only because February's got everything else.
Good, okay.
So my goal was
That
March.
answers my question.
My goal was March.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So the question is whether or not to have Bill Lindsay in regarding the debt service conversation.
I believe part of Bob's request was that we hear from him as you're deliberating the budget, and we would ask for him to be brief,
Yeah.
succinct
Yep.
in his remarks. So I did, like Bob said,
I think
send
that could be done in
I
February.
included the two of you on my email today, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I don't
I
know
think
if he
that's
can attend in February, but I will certainly pose that date to him if that's agreeable to.
Right.
Is the board okay with that, having a presentation?
Yeah, it makes
But
sense to
debt
have it
service.
before the budget.
Okay,
Yeah.
yep. All right, so we'll add that to the agenda for next month.
I will confirm that he's able to attend
Absolutely.
next month first,
Absolutely.
yes. If nothing else,
If he's available,
I have already sent him
Okay.
the questions that Bob posed, so that he has an idea of what you're looking for.
And if anybody else has
Yeah.
any questions, certainly send it to Mary Jane.
I'll tell you what this doesn't take. So, a few things. I said debt service, which typically ran the 4 to 5% range before the high school financing, peaked at 10.1% in 21-22 based on current obligations and ignoring any unconfirmed new projects requiring financing. Where do we see that going in the next 5 years? Bond interest rates hit their low point in 21. How do we see current rates affecting our debt service? What is the mean debt service budget percent among Connecticut towns? What are the means and averages for comparable towns to Guilford? Do we have any bonds that are to be renewed or refinanced at higher rates, current rates? In other words, are we exposed to higher rates on existing obligations? Is Guilford facing any unfunded mandates from the legislature, education, environment, housing, health? And what do our advisors think that municipalities should know about debt financing that tends to get overlooked? And what strategies would they recommend for Guilford? So that's all and to be honest, they don't need to spend a lot of time on each. I know Bill likes to educate. Just the answers would be great.
I asked him for a brief presentation,
Yeah.
yes.
So that's it. So if anybody has, if I missed something glaring, please tell.
I was wondering about new GASB requirements, whether that's for the auditor or whether he can.
Nope.
We can bring that up right now then, because I haven't even talked to my friend Matt yet. So two new GASB requirements this year for the 2022 audit, which is one of the reasons our audit, I had to ask for an extension, which shoot me, I don't like to do, but it was leases. So all of our leases had to be cataloged and reported, deferred revenue, the whole thing. We did that this year with a spreadsheet that the auditing firm provided for a fee. So today, and then for the next year's audit ending 2023, we have similar recommendation. All of our subscriptions, technology subscriptions, if we subscribe with Microsoft for X amount of years, we have to put that on our balance sheet. No offense, it's a pain in the butt, but it's a requirement. So I know I've spoken to Matt and Mike previously about a product called DebtBook. DebtBook can take all of our debt and put it into very succinct databases, and we can pull it out. And we felt like we did a good enough job on our own, so we didn't necessarily, want the added cost of that software. Just today, I sat through a presentation from DebtBook, who also provides leasing and subscription services for the same cost as they quoted us for DebtBook a year ago. So I was going to talk to Matt, but now that we're here, I'd
Cat's
be
out of the
looking.
bag now.
It's a cost, it's a $13,000 annual expense, plus a $2,000 implementation, which we could do all the implementation ourselves and not have a cost. But for $2,000, I give them copies of all of our leases, and 90% of the work is done. So I don't like,
Yes, the answer is yes.
Okay, I don't like to bring things up without talking to him first, so it makes me feel funny.
It's easy. That's an easy decision.
Okay. But those two GASB standards drove every single finance director nuts this year. And as our auditor might say when he comes to report, every one of his clients asked for an extension. And that's part of it. It wasn't all of it. It wasn't the whole reason for us asking for an extension. We can get into that at another time, but that was a big part of it. And so since the leases kind of became an issue this year, I'm hoping to get a head start on the subscriptions and not have this stumbling block a year from now.
Can you talk just to the extent of how many leases we're talking about? We got the Board of Education leases on the equipment, computer equipment. We have technically the energy performance contract is a lease, right?
Yeah, so those are capital leases, which we already have in our audit. Believe it or not, we're talking copier leases, water coolers. Major for the town, believe it or not, is our cell tower leases where we receive the revenue. Those are the types of things, that's why I was scrambling looking for contracts. So, so those are the types of things that we had to put together this year. Board of Ed did on their end, and we did it on our end. Our cell tower leases required this spreadsheet that we used and required specific journal entries to post the deferred revenue for that. So we don't have a lot, but what we have is significant.
Can you talk about deferred leases? I'm not understanding how the cell towers are deferred leases.
Well, they're not a deferred lease. So if we have a 3-year contract for a cell tower, I've got 3 years of revenue that I have to account for. Yeah, it's deferred to us.
Right.
We haven't actually received it yet. So
And like the technology leases for the books at the
that's a
schools?
capital lease, so that's already in our audit, similar to debt. So it's not part of this. It was looked at as part of this, but was deemed to be a capital lease, and it stayed in the debt section of our audit.
So what they're looking for is what we're committed to in terms of lease payments over a period of time.
Correct.
And what we are anticipating receiving in terms of leases that we are letting out.
Correct. And they're looking at things that have a specific deadline. So say we had a cell tower lease there was no end date. It was it would not be accounted for because there isn't that a deadline. Why it's like that? Bob, looking at Bob because maybe he knows better than I do.
It's just accrual accounting rather than cash.
Yeah.
And they make
Exactly, and we have
they make you swear to things that may never happen.
we have to put a discount rate. We have to assign a discount rate to it. We have
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
So this program will not only put it all together, determine what our journal entries are. It will manage all of our leases, whether they apply to GASB or not. So all of our leases can be in one place. And they will actually write the footnotes.
Oh, wow.
Yay, me!
So is that 15 a year?
It's $13,000 a year plus the 2 for the first year implementation.
Is that a lease or a
But-
subscription?
Yeah.
But for that same $13,000, we're also going to manage our debt through it too. So and he said, you don't even have to send anything. I'll go to Arissa and pull out all, and they're going to get everything online, and they'll upload all of our debt, and maybe there'll be even nicer charts than I do for myself.
Doesn't sound possible.
Yeah, there's no way that
Is
can
there a
happen.
support fee for it each year?
It's the $13,000.
Oh, the 13,000 is annual.
Just like
Correct.
Flat fee.
That's the fee. So, again,
So in
Matt, I
terms of
apologize for
man-hours-
not bringing that up to you today.
Inaccuracy,
We're busy today.
you're on board.
Is there a savings too that coincides with the purchase of the software? So you're less man hours on the
Time,
spreadsheets
yes,
and so forth?
certainly time, yes. Right now, whenever we have a new debt authorization, I'm manually putting it in all my spreadsheets and, and I've got it to a really good place, so I have good data to give to them. So, but it'd certainly be a time saver as time goes on. And anytime we want to look at different configurations, this program can do that.
I don't want to ruin the excitement for tomorrow, but is it in your budget request for tomorrow?
It is not. I just had the webinar today. I just had the, webinar today, not a webinar,
Okay.
but
Presentation.
yeah, the presentation today, this afternoon. That's why I haven't even had time to talk to anyone about it. So, but so my intent would be to get it now so that we're prepared for next year and then also have it in our budget for next year. So.
Okay. Good to know.
Thanks for that, Veronica.
Nice lead question. Well done.
No, because every year we get the audit reports, and every year there's a new GASB, so it's sort of like, it's helpful to know what's coming down the pike, because, instead of chasing our tail, maybe we can be ahead of it, or.
Oh, that's exactly what I was trying to do. Good.
I'm just curious, who are we posing these questions to that Bob
Bill
has come up
Lindsay
with?
is our financial advisor.
Okay.
He's who we use for our bonding and for all of our, when we talk to the rating agencies.
Now, you
He's our
think we could
financial
ask him
advisor.
his insight about the percentage of the rainy day fund that is, reflects
Correct.
a high bond rating or low bond
Absolutely.
rating? or moderate?
If you remember when I came with the revised debt policy, right, was it debt policy? He was the one who wrote the memo in support of my recommendation.
That's right.
So, yes,
Okay.
same person.
Just make sure you put them in writing. And get them to Mary Jane, whatever you got.
So you can prepare before.
Yep. Shall we move on? Because still some old business and new business. The next item I had under old business was, there was some conversation last month about the use of ARPA funds, and that we might get a list or a report of that use. And it's just a follow-up. I mean, it could be next month or whatever. I just didn't want to lose it.
Sticky note on my computer that tells me to do that. It's just, budget season has been,
And you look at the sticky note every day,
I
and you
do,
forget
and
the
I
sticky note's
say-
there, like I do, yeah.
and all I say is, yup, I'll
Yep.
get to that.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
I mean, I can send you what I have currently. It was pretty up to date. It was just a couple new things were added that I haven't
I
had
think
the
it's just,
opportunity
something
to
to
add.
just review and just
Yeah,
for
I can certainly
knowledge.
send you what I have, just knowing that there are a couple items that aren't on
Okay.
there yet.
I did want to touch on the fact that the Board of Education, Board of Finance met tonight before this meeting for our joint budget meeting. As the superintendent's budget came out, it's not the Board of Education budget, but the superintendent's budget came out at 4.78%. We reviewed a lot of items in that. The one thing I'll say about what the 478 is, it's not as high as last year's initial superintendent's budget, but it's the second highest that's ever been presented to us, or presented to the Board of Education. And it was noted that and Linda, correct me if I'm wrong, but over the last 8 years, 9 years of budgets, they have averaged, if you cumulatively do it, it's averaged under 2% when you look at all of them. So there's not really too many surprises. We heard that a lot of boards of education and school systems are looking at higher percentages this year. And the couple notes that I did take down, we have the superintendent's budget, so we've had a chance to look at it. The medical is another big increase, not as much as last year, but it's still about half of last year's increase, but still a big amount. There's ESSER grant money that's running out, that the question is whether we keep certain items, or of course I'm saying we as a town Board of Education keeps those positions and those allocations of monies from the ESSER grant, and we put into the budget. and also the contract negotiations with the teachers and salaries, that's having an impact. There's a lot of other factors, but I think one of the things I also heard was and this will be in the presentation, discretionary funding, it was like 3.99% of the 478 is non-discretionary. And then the rest of it is discretionary. So I think that's all going to play out in the presentations. I just want to make sure that the public knew that we are on board in terms of getting all the data and talking with the Board of Education. There'll be plenty of discussions as time goes on. And that was something we talked about last month because we had a joint meeting before that. So that's why it came up under old business. Is there anything else under old business? Otherwise, I'm going to segue to new business. Talking about budgets, the Board of Selectmen budget workshops are tomorrow. We're all aware of that. It's actually tomorrow afternoon from 1 to 4:35-ish, whenever those departments all end, and then Thursday morning, starting at, I believe, 8:30. And those are held in the Selectmen's Conference Room or by Zoom. So we have the option of attending either way. So just a reminder for that. The Board of Education public budget hearings are Monday and Tuesday next week, the 23rd and 24th, starting at 7:30. Linda, I didn't ask, are they in person, Zoom, or both? Do you know?
I believe there's both.
Okay.
In person, it's at Guilford High School.
It is?
The Adams Chorus Room.
Thank you. I'm glad I brought it up.
It's at Guilford High School.
Okay, so Monday, Tuesday next week, 23rd, 24th, 7:30 at the high school, or by Zoom. And then our next regular meeting, Thursday, February 16th, is going to include the presentations by the Board of Selectmen and by the Board of Education on the fiscal year 23-24 budgets. So I know we all know that. We look very forward to that every year. But just for the public, knowing that those presentations will be going on, and we'll be getting our first look at what's going to be presented to the public from both boards. So anything else under new business? Okay. Item number 14, public forum. Anybody wishing to address the board in public forum? They're all gone. It got silent. Okay.
Pickleball players have left.
Yes, they
Came
have.
early.
And they made quite the impact in public forum. So we'll be listening carefully to Park and Rec tomorrow.
It's nice to have somebody come in.
It was.
It actually is a legitimately growing sport. My best friend loves pickleball. Like,
I hear about it every week, so, yeah. We all have friends now. It's like, oh, I know somebody. Now it's like, oh, now I have a friend who plays pickleball. So, yeah, you hear about it all the time, so.
Rec is well aware.
Oh, yes. Okay, if nothing further,
I move we adjourn.
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Thank you,
Good night,
everyone.
everyone.
Good night.